here is the LHI FPV ready to fly full carbon fiber 220 millimeter sized quadcopter. And when they say ready to fly, they certainly mean it. Everything that comes in this bag, minus a set of FPV goggles or an LCD display screen, that's the only thing you need. Everything else you need is in this bag. So let's crack into it. Having this case is nice. Nice then to include that, really keep all your stuff in one location. It's really cool. So we'll get right into, now this is not an unboxing, just pretty much going to show you what it comes with and kind of give my thoughts on it. This is the AT9 made by Radiolink, a 9-channel radio capable of telemetry. It can hold 15 models, has a whole bunch of switches that are programmable in any way you want, and I'll tell you what, it actually feels like a pretty nice radio. This entire kit, which retails for $299 on Amazon.com. This radio, if you look for it, is $130. So right away, a big chunk of the money you're spending goes towards this radio. It's really hard to tell where the money actually goes because all this stuff is pretty quality. I'll tell you one thing about the radio. When you get this quad, it is already bound, at least mine was, already bound to the quadcopter, and the flight mode switch was set up right here. So we had, and if you're familiar with the flight modes of Clean Flight, you can read up on that, but basically it has angle mode, which is full stabilization, horizon mode, which is still stabilization but allows you to do flips and rolls, and when you put it in that mode, that would be acro mode, where you have full control of the copter. Sets of props, looks like we got 2 sets. These are 50-45 blunt nose, perfect for the powertrain that's on this quadcopter. We get an extra battery strap, and we have, let's see, an instruction manual for the B3. Let me get this out of here. Oh, that's in there. For the B3 battery charger, and a power cable for that battery charger as well. I would definitely recommend getting yourself a quality balance charger, but to get started in the hobby, tell you what, this will do the trick. It charges at 1.6 amps, and it can do 2 or 3 cell. So you could possibly get away with this for a little while, but you definitely want something more powerful. But I'll tell you this, I'm going to keep this actually in my bag just for doing some quick field charging. You know, if I find an outlet, it's small, very small actually, and it might be a good way to do some field charging. It does come with one battery. It is made by, I want to say Zop Power? Well, I haven't tried it yet. It's a 11.1 volt, so it's a 3-cell 35C 1500 milliamp battery. I would recommend, definitely, you're going to want more batteries so you can do your research and find that, but it is nice of them to include a battery and a charger, truly making this a ready to fly kit. We also have this CD. I did take a look at it. It is the user manual, a very extensive user manual for this radio, for the Radiolink AT9, and also some kind of, I want to say a user manual or a list of things to check for and do pre-flight things on the LHI 220 here. So this is a 220 class, which means 220 millimeters from one motor to a diagonal motor. It is pretty light for what it is. I mean, these are pretty thick. I think they're either 3.5 or 4 mil. So it's pretty thick frame, but because it's a unibody design, it saves some weight there. It has a low deck, which is great for keeping the CG really close to the prop line. So this thing should handle really good, and it does handle really good. And that's one of the reasons why, keeping that center of gravity a little better with that lower deck. It has the MT2204 2 2300 kV motors. They are capable of 3 or 4S. And basically they're like the Emax 2204-2 motors. They are rated for 4S, as well as the 20 amp Little B ESCs, rated for 3 or 4S. And they became pre-flashed with BLHeli 14.6. If you don't know what that means, that's okay. A lot of beginners wouldn't, but you can kind of Google that, and as you start learning about the hobby, BLHeli is the firmware you want on your ESCs. The one thing that it didn't come with was dampen light, which is the active braking for the motor. So when you let off the throttle, they don't just free spin, they kind of stop. That makes the copter more responsive. That was not turned on by the factory, so I had went in and done that. I will try and put together a quick video on how I kind of set this quadcopter up. It is running I don't know the make on it, but it is running a 1000 TV LCCD camera and a 600 milliwatt, at least 32 channel. I believe it's 40 channel because when I fired it up, it was on Race Band 7. And Race Band's a popular band to be using if you're flying with other flyers. So I think that's good that that's on there. The 600 milliwatt kind of kills it for that. You would want to get a lower one, but if you're flying by yourself and you need to penetrate through some trees or some concrete walls, the 600 milliwatt will definitely help you. And the cloverleaf antenna would be exactly what you need to do that. It has a Seriously Pro Racing F3 flight controller in it, flashed with Betaflight 2.8.1, which was surprising. I would have thought it had clean flight on it, but running Betaflight is awesome. That's pretty much what I run on all my copters anyway. We'll take a look at the bottom here. On the bottom we have landing gear, which I'm usually not a fan of. I like kind of just dropping it down, but I tell you what, these things are really sturdy. They're very rubbery, and being that it has LEDs on the bottom, it makes sense that we have these to protect those things. So a little bit about the copter. I did take it right out of the box, put a battery in it, turned on the transmitter. It did bind. I was able to arm it using stick arming, and I did try to fly it. It flew, but it did not fly so great. And the main reason, and I think I saw some other reviews on some of their other models and people talking about motors not spinning up at the same time. And basically, that was a simple fix to go into the Clean Flight software and basically calibrate the ESCs. All I had to do was calibrate the ESCs and the thing flew beautifully. I did go back, make some adjustments that I know would help make it fly a little better, and now it's tuned and flying very well. And I did that with less than 2 battery packs. So if you're new to the hobby, all that may sound strange to you, so I'm going to post a little video right after this that shows you the exact steps I took to get this flying beautifully. It truly is a ready to fly FPV machine. This would not be for beginners, I'll tell you that right now. So if you're just getting into RC, bad idea. Get yourself a cheaper little smaller drone and fly that around first to practice. This would be when you're ready to step into the FPV game. This is the kind of power that you're going to want and that you actually kind of need to fly FPV. So when you get in trouble and you can mash the throttle and this thing will get you out of trouble, that's what you want. As a new pilot, having that kind of power will get you in trouble definitely, but this looks like it's going to be a really tough airframe. The one thing I would say I might do is maybe reinforce the antenna here, so if it does flip over and take a hit, we don't break the VTX here. But other than that, I'll tell you what, for 300 bucks, I don't think you can build a quadcopter, get a radio, a battery, and a charger for less than that, and to have it built for you, ready to go with the latest firmware, pretty much on all the components. That's just an amazing deal. And I was actually surprised when kudos to LHI for providing a really cool machine here. So that's about it for this portion of the review. I'm going to post a few videos right after this. Basically my setup configuration that I did to get this in the air, and maybe just a few 20 or 30 seconds of this flying line of sight, and maybe a little FPV footage just so you can see how it flies. Okay, I'm going to try and do this as quick as possible, so it may behoove you to go back through this video and kind of take it one step at a time. But I thought I'd show you exactly the best way to get this thing set up and to get kind of yourself in the game for getting this ready to run. So we'll get right to it. The first thing we want to do basically is you always turn your radio on first, and we're just going to power it up. We know it says ready to fly, so we want to check a few things, make sure that it's bound. The way you can tell that on this radio that it's actually bound is that your flight controller light is not beeping like crazy. And if you look on the radio here, we have a little satellite, so those little bars came up telling us that we have a connection to some receiver, and we're assuming it's this one. And also we see RX voltage, so now we know that this is powered up and it's sending voltage back. One thing to remember before you power it up, make sure you put your VTX antenna on the quad. It's a 600 milliwatt, so when it's got to put power out somewhere, and if it doesn't have an antenna on it, it'll burn up. So number one rule. Another thing to check really quick is to make sure that you see a purple light here on the receiver. It tells us the receiver is powered, and also that it's in S-Bus mode, which is a perfect mode for this to be in. There is videos on how to change that, but basically there's a little button in there, you tap it, and it goes from, I think, red to purple, and then you know that you're in that mode. We will do one other thing, we will try and arm it. Now, when it comes, it's armed by yawing this way, down, throttle down and to the right. You'll see the flight controller flash, and then you can give it a little throttle. I had already kind of got in here and messed with things, so I have it on an arm switch, so I'm just gonna power the motors up. And what we're gonna check is that the motors are spinning in the right orientation, which they are. There are many ways to check this. You can Google it. Basically, the Betaflight, the way Clean Flight and Betaflight work, the motors are 1, 2, 3, 4. These motors here turn this way. The opposite motor the same, and these turn this way. All right. So, and one way to check that is when the motor turns the way that it would tighten the props on this particular aircraft. So all looks good so far. It powered up. It didn't smoke. The motors are turning the right way. We can bind to our radio, which is good. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to plug the copter into a laptop. You will need a few bits of software for this. I'm not going to show you everything you need to know about this, but basically you can go to the Google App Store and look for Clean Flight Configurator. Currently that's what you would need. And also I would download Google BL Heli Suite. Get the latest version of BL Heli Suite you can find. And there's many videos on flashing the ESCs. So I'm just going to show you the basics. So all you need is a USB plug and some kind of computer. It is a micro USB, and there is a port right on the side. Now at this point in time, we do not need the quad to be powered up. Another thing here is, if you notice there's no props on it, we're not putting the props on until we're ready to fly this. You can get into a really dangerous situation, so I highly recommend no props until you're actually ready to fly. So here's Clean Flight, we're gonna run it. Now if you have trouble connecting to it or anything, watch some videos on that, but basically I already have the drivers. You may have to download some drivers and stuff. That's all you can find on YouTube and all that. So we're gonna connect to our copter. And what we're interested in seeing here, and I don't know if you can see it, but it is running Betaflight 2.81, which is awesome. So we're just gonna check a few things in here. Basically we're gonna go to our modes tab and see that it has flight mode set up, which is great. And now we're going to power the copter up so we can actually see a live view of everything. So this is how we can confirm the switches. So if you notice, if I switch this switch here, it went from angle to horizon. And actually this third switch here will make it go to nothing, which is the acro mode, which if you're learning FPV, that's probably the best mode you want to start in. You can try flying in the auto stabilized modes, but everyone will tell you start off in acro, crash, learn how to fly that way. I also made an arm switch on mine, so you can hear the motor start up, and you see as I flip the arm switch, the quad starts to arm up. The next thing we're going to do is check our receiver. So what we're looking for here is a couple things. When we move our sticks, I'll just show you here. When we move our sticks, so we roll to the left and roll goes down. We roll to the right, roll goes up. We pitch up, pitch goes up. We pitch down, pitch goes down. We throttle up, we see throttle up, we throttle down. We yaw left and we yaw right. Okay, so that's perfect. We see that everything's moving in the right direction. The next thing we want to notice is we really want to check and make sure that our endpoints are proper. And by endpoints, I mean when we move the little stick all the way to the left, we should be as close to 1,000 as we can be, and we should be the closest to 2,000 as we can be. And we would do that on all axes. So pitch, 1,000, 2,000 on up, same thing on our yaw axis, and same thing on our throttle. Now, if yours aren't exactly on that, it's okay, but you want to get as close as possible. I'll show you how to do that on this radio very quickly. You hold this, we have to unlock it. Hold the menu button down here. go to your endpoints, and you can see I've already adjusted these. Basically, you would hold that stick exactly where you wanted, and you can adjust it and watch the screen and make sure it hits that 2000 mark on the high end and 1000 mark on the low end. You also want to make sure that middle stick, with everything excluding the throttle, you want to make sure that when they're idling and in their center positions, right, that they're as close to 1500 as possible. And to adjust that, you would go to your subtrim, and you can adjust these numbers. See how I had to move the aileron and, there you go, sorry, your subtrims. I had to move the aileron and the rudder, which is yaw in this world, just a few clicks to get it so that I'd be close as I could possibly be to 1500. This makes sure that your radio is sending signals that the flight controller expects. This is what makes your quadcopter fly better. One last thing we're going to do is we're going to check our failsafe. Now, I have my failsafe set to drop the copter. So I set the stage 2 here at drop. And what that means is when the quadcopter loses signal, it's not going to fly off into some crazy direction. It is literally going to shut off. And you do want to test that. So the best way to test that is to arm your quadcopter, give it just and turn the radio off. Give it a little bit of throttle, and see that once the radio loses signal, the copter shuts off. That's how we know we have a good failsafe. We really want to make sure that that is set well in advance to taking your first flight. All right, calibrating your ESCs, probably the most important thing to do to get this quadcopter flying right. Having calibrated ESCs means the ESCs, the motors, the transmitter, and the flight controller are all talking the same language and are all running off of the same set of numbers. This means everything knows what a value means, right? So to do that, we're going to do that in clean flight here, and we're going to make sure it's unplugged at the moment, right? And there are no props on our quadcopter at all. So see, no props. On our motors tab, we're connected. We're going to move the throttle to the highest position. And basically, when we plug that in, that puts the ESCs in programming mode. And then when they see the highest position, the next thing they're going to want to see is the lowest position. So once we plug this in, we're going to hear 2 beeps, and the ESCs are going to start singing. We're going to bring the throttle all the way down, and that's going to calibrate our ESCs. So let's give that a try. That second set of tones is that it's heard the lower setting. So it has heard the highest value and the lowest value, and now they're programmed. The next thing we want to do really quick is actually run our motors up. I'm going to try and do this. You can do this with the keyboard. I recommend doing it with the keyboard. So we can see that these motors are running pretty smoothly at around 1022, 1023. All motors are running smoothly. Definitely use your keyboard. If you use the mouse, you end up really winding it up too high. So we want to take note of that number, 1023. And basically, what we just did there is found out that all our motors idle smoothly at 1023. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to switch over to our configuration tab, and we're going to set our idle speed a little bit higher than that 1022. Most people say about 20 or 30. I found these things idle pretty good at 1035. I've set it to 1035, and what that's going to do with my motor spin, when I arm the copter, they're going to spin at that value. And basically, that makes it so you can never shut the motors off. So what you have to do is be very careful. If you crash or something, you have to disarm quickly. But what it does do is allows you to put the throttle at 0 and do those the things in the videos you like to see with like hang time and things like that. So basically, that is the setup that I've done here.